Hi everyone, welcome to our live broadcast today. I'm delighted to say I'm here with Caroline Joynson from Cheerleader PR. Now, we'll talk to Caroline, ask her a few questions in a minute, and if anyone does have any questions themselves, please feel free to put them into the comments. I'm sure we'll try and answer as many as possible. So what we're going to do today is just kind of talk about the importance of PR and, well, good PR, effective PR as well. Now, I don't know about your experience, Caroline, but for many people, and I'm including myself in this, kind of know what PR is. I know what the benefits are, and I know why it's used and all that kind of thing. But I don't really know how to do it or where to start. And I guess that's where someone like yourself comes in. So before I do ask a few questions around that, do you want to kind of just introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about you and Cheerleader PR?
Yeah, sure. Well, thank you very much for having me here. I'm Caroline Joynson. I'm the founder of Cheerleader PR. And I set up Cheerleader PR basically to help people to become their own best cheerleaders because I have had a 20-year career of promoting other people's businesses, which I still absolutely do. But I believe that particularly for entrepreneurs and, personal brand businesses, that they are the best person to promote themselves. So yeah, I mean, I've worked in PR for 20 years. I've worked in agencies. I've worked in at the National Media Museum in the press office there. And I've been freelance for 6 years. And it was just time to kind of set up a slightly different business model and bring in sort of coaching and courses into the mix, as well as a consultancy, which I still do. So yeah, so that's kind of Cheerleader PR in a nutshell, really. And you're right. I mean, a lot of people have different thoughts about PR, what it is, what it isn't. So it's great to be able to kind of come on and have that conversation, really.
Yeah, excellent. So, I mean, first and foremost, to start with, how has the world of PR changed or differed over these last, best part of 2 months now since we're in the lockdown situation? Has anything changed, or is it all kind of very similar?
Yeah, I mean, I think PR in its essence hasn't changed. I mean, the media are still working and businesses are still trading. Obviously not all businesses, but the ones that are, still working have still absolutely got to manage their reputation and their relationships, which is what PR is all about. And that's the thing with PR. It's something that we all need in business because, who doesn't want to build better relationships and, build up their reputation? And that's what it's all about. So, I mean, as I say, I help passionate business owners to get media coverage and PR so that they can build relationships, grow their profile and make more sales. And those things are still absolutely key. I mean, I think obviously when coronavirus first hit, and I mean, you still see it now. I mean, I see requests from journalists all the time, wanting to see how people have been affected by coronavirus in business and in life. And that's the thing, the media very much reflects what's going on. And that's why everything's so timely. And it's yesterday's news is gone. It's changing all the time. So I think people are still absolutely, looking to promote themselves and to, as I say, build the relationships and do business. And I mean, the importance of sort of sharing their story and expertise is as vital as ever, really. So I think things, in terms of doing business are still kind of, carrying on as they were. But it's just responding to the kind of the here and the now and using what's happening now as a new kind of facet to your story as a business or as a business owner. So I think it's interesting times, but, being able to manage your reputation and build relationships is as important as it's ever been, really.
Of course, no, absolutely, totally agree with that. So, kind of starting at the beginning, which is always a good place to go. What is PR? What to you is PR in a kind of a nutshell that even someone like myself can understand?
Well, PR is all, as I say, it's all about reputation and relationships. So it's basically about, we all now are our own media outlets, if you like, in that we've got our own broadcast studio like this today. We can have podcasts. We've got our own radio show. We've got our own social media, so we can put out, our own stories. But PR is all about other people endorsing what you do and saying you're good at what you do and that you know what you're talking about. Because the traditional comparison is always between PR and advertising, and that still stands, because obviously, you can still advertise in the media and you can advertise on social media, but ultimately with advertising, you say what you want, you write what you like, you can say that you're great, and you've paid for the space, and that's up to you. But with PR, space, you're not paying for the space. Someone else who controls that outlet is saying that you are good at what you do, or featuring you on merit because your stuff, or including you because you've got an opinion to share. And so it's that sort of crucial third-party endorsement that you can't buy, and that's why it's so powerful. And that's the kind of the traditional comparison. So it's about other people who are respected and got influence in their own field, bringing you in to show, because they believe that you've got something to share. So obviously this is an example, me talking to you now is an example of PR, because it's your channel and you've invited me on, and that's just the sort of the basic comparison of what it's all about, really.
Absolutely. It's probably a very not too different from when you talk about referrals for business, isn't it? Is that it's a lot more powerful if someone else is referring you because you've done good work for them than it is if you just go to that person and say, hey, come and buy my service or product. And PR is probably very similar to that in terms of someone else is giving you that endorsement, I guess, because you're featured on their video or in their news article or on their podcast, whatever it is. It's kind of, so it makes a lot of sense. So I guess for a lot of people, they probably already do a degree of PR for themselves.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and I mean, I suppose, like you say now, because you've got a lot more channels to go on to in terms of other people have got, other business owners have got their own channels or networks or, groups like yours. And it's kind of wider in a way because you've got more to go at, really, because you've still got obviously the traditional media, you've got your printed media and you've got your online versions and then your broadcast media. But as I say, business owners have got their own suite of media now. So it just gives a lot of scope to go at. But I think it also raises the kind of concern of like making sure, well, what are you actually wanting to say to people? What are you wanting to be known for? What are your areas of expertise? What messages are you actually trying to get out there? Because actually the thing is, with so many different channels, I think the risk of overwhelm is massive. So it's about being able to make a plan around who you're trying to reach, what you want to tell them, what your messages are, and when and where you're going to get those across in the best way for you and your business. So it's much more about a strategic approach. And that's, I guess, where sort of PR and those skills come in to help with that planning side and the sort of strategic side, because it is a strategic discipline. I mean, depending on where you're at, whether you're a business that's got loads of news, you're taking on loads of employees, or responding to the current situation, or you're winning contracts, that's news that's interesting to the wider world, and it shows that you're succeeding in business. But it could be an individual who's replying to a journalist request on Twitter and gets featured in an article about, I don't know, mums who have their own businesses. It's just thinking about what you need it to be, so that it's going to help you to get where you want to with your business, because that's the strategic side, and that's about using it to your own advantage rather than it being a bit more scattergun and unplanned. So it's kind of taking control of your reputation, actually.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I mean, a lot of people, whether it's doing things like this or, like I said, speaking on podcasts or anything like that, it will probably might be doing bits of that, but it's having a more strategic approach is so important, because you could do hundreds of podcasts, but if you're not talking to the right people who you need to be talking to your business, it's I'm not saying irrelevant, but it's not a strategic way to do it. So that kind of leads into my next question. Actually, I was going to ask about, so if you're you take on a new client that you're going to help the PR work with them, what kind of work goes on in the background? What do you do for them that you kind of maybe the front end people don't see?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of work. I mean, I always say, until the point of you sending out your first press release for a client, there's a lot of work goes on to get you to that point. And almost like sending out the press release or the pitch is like the icing on the cake, because you've done so much work to get to that point. So I always start, it's kind of like almost sort of a step-by-step process I follow, whether that's doing someone's PR for them or teaching them how to promote themselves. So the first place to always start is looking at that person's audience, like who are you actually trying to reach? Because unless you know who that is, it's very, very hard to reach them. So it's going into, you know, the demographics of the audience, who they are they business to business, are they consumers, and going really deep into that. Because once you know that, then you can start to work out how to reach them. And that's kind of like my favorite part in a way, matching the audience and the media and the different channels to get you that, you know, path through it. And also looking at the objectives for the business or the individual solopreneur. So, you know, where are they trying to get to with their business? You know, it's all, again, it's like you say, you could do hundreds of podcast interviews, but which ones are actually going to get you the right people to hear you? So it's thinking about, well, who your audience are, what your objectives are, so what you're trying to achieve with the business, and then going into the sort of the stories that are coming up in that business, you know, the story that's got them to the point now, but equally the news, you know, what, as I say, what contracts have they won, you know, what expertise have they got, and going really into the business and then seeing what different angles we've got to work with. So it's audience, objectives, story and expertise. And then it's, as I say, matching those things to the media outlets and looking at, well, what media would be interested in those stories and what media appeals to that target audience. Because ultimately a journalist or anyone with, you know, with media outlet like yourself, you're thinking about, well, who your audience are, and you want people on the show that are going to actually be of interest to the people that are watching. And that's the same test any journalist would put anything through. So it's a matching process, really. The other thing to bring into it is, as I said before, with PR being so timely, you're often looking to, it's passing the why now test. So you're either making something relevant now by making something happen, or you're kind of piggybacking or linking onto something that's happening in the wider world anyway. So, you know, for example, awareness days and things like that. So there's another aspect, which is the time, you know, timeless and when you're going to send something out. And then, as I say, it's kind of making that plan of what to send out, when, and to whom. So, as I say, a lot goes into that point of finally sending the thing out, whether that's a pitch or, you know, as I say, a press release or a feature approach. You've got to go through all those stages to get to that point. But once you've got to that point, that's like an amazing feeling, because it's sort of it all maps out and it makes sense, and you know why you're doing what you're doing. You can prioritize your time a lot better, because you know the things that are going to get you the results that you are going to reach the audience you want to reach. So I guess that's where the strategic side comes in, really, and that's a process that I go through with my clients, or equally I teach people to go through themselves or go through it with them when I'm coaching. So that's not changed, you know, that's just the way it is, you know, throughout my career, really.
Yeah, that makes lots of sense. So why, generally, if someone comes to you, whether it's an individual, small business or a bigger business, kind of why have they decided that PR is for them at that point? Is there a particular theme, or is it just as the business is growing? What's kind of generally the reason someone would come to you?
That's a really good question. That's kind of like the $1 million question, really, for PR, because, you know, there's so much choice of ways to promote yourself now. You know, and obviously social media is still, it's kind of your own personal PR, because you're choosing what you put out and how you put it out. But ultimately, I think a lot of people come to me when they've got their social media and their own media out, like as in, you know, their own channels covered, but they want more. They want to stand out more. They want that credibility. They want to, you know, often, like say for people who are wanting to be in like the Yorkshire Post business section, they want other businesses and their peers to see that their business is growing and succeeding. You know, potential clients, it's another way of standing out, but standing out above the crowd, really. And as I say, getting that endorsement that, you know, you've done something that kind of merits getting in the paper or online or talking about. So I think for a lot of people, it's like another sort of step up from when they've got their own channel sorted. They're a bit like, well, how do I get out there? I've got my own audience. I can keep talking to them, but I want to grow it. I want to reach more people. I want to move, you know, open up to bigger and better things. So, you know, sometimes for individuals that might be like, you know, they want to start speaking at events, or, you know, they just want to elevate their profile even more. So PR is a great way to do it, because, you know, once you've got your own channels nailed, it's what's next, really. So I think a lot of the clients I work with, they're just ready to kind of stand up and be counted by their audience, by their competitors, by their clients, and just get that, as I say, that credibility really.
No, absolutely. Okay, that makes a lot of sense again. I mean, one of the things we've talked about a few kind of channels, I guess, for PR from social media. You mentioned the Yorkshire Post a minute or so ago. How has that changed over the last few years? I imagine it has done. And how is it changing, do you think, in terms of where the priority with those channels? We're probably, most people are aware that circulation of newspapers goes down, but online content has gone up. So how we kind of have you seen it change, and how do you see it changing?
Yeah, I mean, I suppose it's, it's changed throughout my career, but it's still very much the case that obviously the printed media is still there. Yeah, I mean, I've seen the graphs of if decline continues, what will happen, but ultimately there'll always be a need for educated, informed, impartial coverage, whether that's in print, or broadcast or online. So I think it's more just that the sort of the outlets are changing and they're having to move. Some are moving quicker than others in terms of moving to online. And I mean, I still love physically holding the paper and having that piece of coverage in my hands, but those things are changing. So I think it's just a case of it's just kind of playing itself out, really. And I think that's why you just have to be ready to adapt in terms of making sure, you're pitching stuff for online as well as in print. So you're kind of covering all bases, really, because you often find actually that for some of the media, they'll have a different team that work on the online section. So it's almost like a whole other set of journalists to get in touch with. That's not the case with something like the Yorkshire Post. I mean, the same journalists write for both. Their articles are put on both, but certainly for some of the, like the magazines and things, they have a different team that do online. So it's actually opening it up in one way. But yeah, I mean, it's kind of keeping aware because things are changing. But still, I think things like the Yorkshire Post and other titles do have that credibility that people know and trust them. And that's not going to change, I don't think.
No, absolutely. So if everyone's listening to this or watching this, whether live or back, if they're kind of thinking, well, PR is maybe something I want to get into or I'd like to explore more, have you kind of got any first steps for people, hints and tips type thing where they could have a little think about whether for themselves or speak to other people before maybe looking at getting to the point of talking to someone like yourself?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think it's sort of sensible for any business owner really to just go through that process of looking at, as I say, who they're trying to reach and what they're actually trying to say. I mean, I think a lot of people do go through this in the early stages of the business or when they rebrand. But I mean, particularly if you're a business that's, that's grown and you've got a team, there's never any harm in sort of refreshing and going into those aspects of, as I say, who you're trying to reach and what you're trying to achieve. But it's a case, I think, of the best place I say to start is to sort of get hands-on almost with some of the media titles and just have a think about, as I say, who you're trying to reach, but what media do they read? What influences them? What has an impact on, decision making, things like that. I mean, there's, because there's so many titles. You've got national media, you've got regional, you've got trade, you've got online. So, I mean, one of the best things to do is sometimes just to ask your audience, what do you read? Where do you hang out online? And just sort of do that bit of research. But then it's kind of getting hold of me and have a read, see what businesses are featured, what sort of stories they like, and just start that process of just thinking where you could naturally fit, because that's always the best place. You're not trying to shoehorn yourself into just anywhere. It's actually, as I say, a strategic thing of thinking, well, what are my audience reading? And then when you've worked that out, having a look at what they're reading and thinking, well, where could I naturally fit? Where would my story fit? What sort of opinion pieces might I be able to sort of share? As in, where do I have strong newsworthy opinions? And just having a look at where they are. I mean, a lot of the business to business titles, particularly the online ones, would have every week or every month, like certain a feature, an interview with an MD every week or every month, or my passion, in the Yorkshire Post is in every week. And it's like business people who've got a different, something different in their lives than business that's, unusual passion in their lives. And it's just start to look at the media in that way where you can think, well, where could I feature? And just just sort of opening your mind really to the opportunities. And it's almost like raising your gaze from like your own, everything in your own lane and your own channels, to just looking out there and thinking, well, where could I fit out there and reach more people?
Perfect. That's great, Caroline. So one last thing for me actually is, if anyone does want to find out a bit more about you, about what you do, where's the kind of best places to find you or get a hold of you?
Yeah, well, I mean, my website is cheerleaderpr.com, but on social media, I mean, I'm on LinkedIn, and I've got a Facebook page, which is Cheerleader PR with Caroline Joynson, but I do have a free Facebook group as well, where I offer hints and tips. I go live every Wednesday and do a Wednesday Wisdom, all about different aspects of PR and promoting yourself. And the name of my Facebook group is PR for Passionate Go-Getters. Because that's the sort of people I work with a lot. It's people who've turned their passion into a business. And as I say, they're keen to grow it now and get out there and get known. So that's my Facebook group. So yeah, come and find me, or Instagram, cheerleader_PR.
Perfect.
Lots of places.
Yeah, lots of places, I'd imagine. Obviously, if anyone for whatever reason can't find Caroline, do let us know at the Northern Affinity. We all have Caroline's details. She's on our website as well. So do that. But yeah, thank you very much for your time, Caroline. It's been really useful. I think for a lot of people, it's probably a bit cleared things up. It has a little bit for me, if nothing else.
Oh, that's good to hear.
Well, thank you very much for your time, Caroline.
You're welcome. Thanks, Mike.
Bye.
Bye.